I was called by the RSPCA to assist with a case at Crunchies Animal Rescue. On my arrival, I found horses foraging amongst the debris around the house and amongst the dangerous hazards. There were broken down vehicles, trailers, cars, wheelbarrows, an open greenhouse, glass, metal, wire and cages. The conditions in the field where the horses were supposed to be were equally poor. It was very bare, there was absolutely no grazing whatsoever, and the field shelters were broken down and dangerous. There was deep mud around the outside of the field shelters. There was absolutely no incentive for those horses to stay in the fields. There was nothing for them to eat. And the fencing itself was inadequate and a danger in itself. It was stock fencing. The horses could easily have put a leg through it. The fencing was down in many places and allowed the horses to walk over it at will into other parts of the premises. I think the situation arose because they had too many animals and they were unable to look after them. The place had fallen into complete disrepair. There was no maintenance, and it was certainly not a suitable environment to keep any animal, let alone horses, who in my view were at serious risk of disease or injury. It was decided by the veterinary surgeon that for their own safety they needed to be removed to a place of safety. My job was to catch those horses and contain them and load them up onto the lorry. The horses were nervous and unhandled, including 2 unruly stallions, which made catching them very difficult. Added to that, it was a windy day, which made the horses more nervous and excitable. At one time, we tried to contain them in an outdoor field shelter, but I realised when I went to try and approach them that it was too dangerous. If they'd moved away and barged into the boards, it would have brought the whole field shelter down on top of us. The loading too was dangerous and hampered by one of the stallions, which was still loose. We had to be very careful not to injure any of the horses or cause injury to ourselves. Once the horses were successfully loaded onto the lorry, they were brought to World Horse Welfare. They were unloaded into the isolation unit, where the staff here at Hall Farm took great care of them. This care has been ongoing for over a year now, and they've remained under the watchful eye of World Horse Welfare. It is hoped that eventually they will be able to be rehomed. But whatever happens, they will remain in the care of World Horse Welfare for the rest of their lives. Under the Animal Welfare Act, the owners have a duty of care to the animals. The conditions were so serious at Crunchies Animal Rescue that a prosecution was brought by the RSPCA against the owners for failing to provide a suitable environment for those horses and other animals. At Oxford Magistrates Court, 6 members of the Russell family were found guilty of a number of offences against the Animal Welfare Act. As a result of that, 2 of them were given immediate prison sentences. Another had the prison sentence suspended. I think it only right and fitting that disqualification was imposed on the Russell family from owning animals. Hopefully this will prevent other animals coming into their care and suffering at their hands. It will also send out a message to other animal owners. If they have animals in their care, they must provide for their needs. The fact that this was another registered animal charity was quite appalling in my view. We all know that charities do a good job, and it's quite easy to become overwhelmed. But in this case, advice had been offered. The whole infrastructure had deteriorated, and the animals weren't being cared for. There was no way that they could have continued in that way, and despite advice being given, they didn't take it. My advice to anybody who's got horses, and certainly another charity if they do feel overwhelmed or not able to cope, is to come to World Horse Welfare and ask for our help. Visiting here today, it's a pleasure to see the way the horses are being looked after compared with the way they were then. It's great to see Pandora here amongst this little group. When I think of what it was like where she came from, the conditions were completely different. There was mud and debris and dangerous hazards everywhere. She's done very well not to be injured and to come through it. She's growing up into a very nice little pony. The horses will remain in the care of World Horse Welfare for the rest of their lives. Since the court case, 1 or 2 of them already been rehomed, and once the rehabilitation of the others has taken place, they too will be ready for rehoming. All of the horses look much more relaxed and more comfortable. And it's good to know they may well be rehomed, but they will always remain under the watchful eye of World Horse Welfare.